It's never really the outside that is the cause of your anger. The outside is actually just a trigger. It triggers a sensation in our body. That's the anger sensation. Each time you do that, you acknowledge the pain and resolve it. It's kind of like body surfing, and it will always pass if we could just do nothing. Most of my anger came from fear. I would just be reactive, like a stray dog that's just roaming around scared, and I'll bite before anybody bites me. What was it that created that weight? The point is to get rid of the weight.
That when we release anger, that gives us an emotional cocktail, a mix of things that we get addicted to. If we can interrupt that with mindfulness, then we stop that cycle.
Welcome to Stories and Stanza. I'm your host, Abhra. I'm a writer, and I created this podcast to bring you a montage of real stories that make life beautiful as poetry. Today's episode is part of the Fail With Me series. I have had a few difficult years where I felt incredibly isolated. So when I came out of it, I wanted to create a supportive space to help those going through similar challenges. In a world that celebrates success and stigmatizes anything that doesn't fit that mold, Fail With Me aims to normalize and accept failure. I explored the concept of failure from various perspectives and challenge the notion that failing is something to be ashamed of. If we can truly unpack the layers of failure, we will find key to our healing. Please join me in welcoming today's guest. Thank you.
Hi Eva, welcome back to Stories and Stanza podcast. How are you doing today?
Right. Thank you for having me back. Yes, thank you.
I'm excited to invite you back on the podcast, and especially on the Fail With Me segment. We have met in person. We have worked together on your suggestions, and I just wanted to say this in the video. Anyone who is listening, that if one person has made my life different and it has really given me a life-changing experience, then that is Eva. And I wholeheartedly thank you for making that difference. So I'm excited to talk to you again. And for our listeners who are joining for the first time, who may not have listened to the audio episode, could you give a brief introduction, please?
So I'm Eva Angvert. I call myself a somatic coach, meaning I work with the body. I help people with body awareness, which is very helpful when we struggle with anger and anxiety or some type of addiction. And also, often trauma from childhood trauma and so on, it's just side effects from trauma. So that's what I do. I help people kind of become body aware and recognize how they really feel when, and how that affects their behaviors.
Thank you, Eva. So, for listeners, once again, I attended Eva's workshop on anger and anxiety management. And we talked about this in our previous audio podcast episode that we did on Stories and Stanza earlier this year. So, I'll have links to that in the description. But for someone joining new, Eva, could you briefly talk about the workshop? What you take us through? Just a introduction about that.
Well, I wanted, my own experience, I struggled with anger and anxiety and panic attack and so on, and for years. And it wasn't until I learned that it's actually my body reactions, my body sensations that actually affects me. And when I can't handle those, that's when I behave in anger or so on. So throughout the workshop, I just take people through. We talked a little bit about how the brain works. And when you feel anger, what kind of body sensations are you really feeling? And if you can focus on the body sensations, you may just not behave aggressively or let the anger take you over. So we just go through exercises and practices and throughout the 4-hour workshop. So by the end, we're hoping that when next time you feel anger, that you actually, you focus more on what you're feeling in your body rather than anything that happens outside you. Because regardless of the people, places, things, and situations, it's never really the outside that is the cause of your anger. The outside is actually just a trigger. It triggers a sensation in our body, and that's the anger sensation, so to say. So it's easy to say, don't make me mad, whereas nobody can make you mad unless you choose to react with anger when that happens. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I wanted to focus on the whole mind body connection throughout the episode. And I wanted to bring some of the questions that I received from listeners in last couple of months. And I'm sure they will be benefited by your guidance here. So on, we talked about the mind body connection, and you explain this a lot in your workshop, that these triggers are inside us, which you said just now. Can I ask you, where does anger reside in our body? Is it possible to understand that?
You only get my opinion now. So in my opinion, I don't think it has a certain spot. You can't point to say my anger is there or here. It's more for me, when I start getting angry, I start feeling heat in my chest. I get a little sweaty and my stomach start turning a little bit. And I have learned to recognize that in my body as, I'm getting a little irritated. And if I'm not paying attention to these body sensations that I have right now, and I start looking outwards, like, what can it be? Oh, it's him. If I bring it outward, I have lost control of myself. I have to sit and feel it on the inside. So I think every human being, any individual, it's probably a very individual place, because when I work with clients, when they say, oh, I'm angry, how does that feel like for you? And then they have to go inside and recognize, oh, this is how my anger feel like. And it's not just one spot. It's more like a combination of a somatic experience inside.
And that's very interesting. I asked this question because you explained to us all these triggers, that this is happening and that is triggering an internal wound, an inner bruise kind of thing. Can you explain that concept once more, please?
Well, like for you in the workshop, how did that feel like when you said, well, I get angry? How did you know you got angry? How did you know that how you felt was anger?
That is, it could be a number of things that I'm keeping inside. It could be some memories, something I was upset with, something I am frustrated about. It's like I am trying to say something and I'm not listened to. The next person is not able to understand where I am coming from. And it's a mix of all those different things. Something similar might have happened, which is in most cases that there is a build up behind that is leading to the anger.
I'm sure that there are psychological reasoning, and we can analyze it psychologically. That's not my skill set. More of a thing, I don't necessarily focus on why I feel the way I feel, more as where is it and how can I resolve it right now so that it doesn't control my behavior? So if you're in a situation and you start feeling that you start getting frustrated, the earlier you recognize your own frustration, then you kind of you remember how we talked about body prints? You have a fingerprint, you can also do body prints. Like, oh, this is my body print of frustration. And if I can pay attention to this more than the people out there that are frustrating me, if I can stick with this, I can notice, and I can resolve right there so that I don't have to go to the next level. And I think that is so personal, because when I work with clients, I could tell you, yes, there are some commonalities. My throat is closing, my chest is getting hot, I'm getting a stomach ache. There are things that most of us feel different combinations of. And I guess you have your own combination of when you start suspecting that, I better watch it now because I am feeling anger. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. One of the very interesting questions I got around anger and anxiety is that even if we understand that, you said that the body print, that something is triggering that feeling, that emotion, then when we say that, do not respond or do not let it trigger, does that mean we are suppressing it?
So I believe that you can suppress it, meaning you're managing. In my world, that's not the thing to do, because here we go back to the pressure cooker. If you have a lid on your pressure cooker and the heat is on and the pressure is on, you need all these valves to release the pressure, right? But the heat's still on. So you have to be dependent on all these valves to all the time to make sure that you can manage these explosive sensations internally. And I would just love just to turn down the heat. And if we turn down the heat, eventually we can take the lid off. There will always be bubbles. We're alive. Things will happen, but it won't be that pressure. And we did the exercise. Remember how we push our hands together?
Yes.
And you keep on pushing really, really, really hard, but you're not getting anywhere. And we do that emotionally. We have all learned a way of pushing things down that feels uncomfortable.
Yes. And yes, this is very interesting that when we say we try to control the anger or win over anger and anxiety, then we often think that it is about suppressing the anger. But no, it's not suppressing the anger, but it is letting go of that emotional steam, the pressure cooker model that you just referred to.
Well, so when I work with a client, or if you and I work and you feel anger, I wouldn't ask you, what do you think that's from? Or do you think it's from when your dad did blah, 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 or all that stuff? That could have an importance if you put importance on that. What I would rather do is, okay, where do you feel that in your body right now? What's going on? Because in my world, the moment you pay attention to the body, it's almost like the body feels seen, you just like, okay, and you acknowledge the body sensations. It's almost like you're turning down the heat a little bit on the stove. Each time you do that, you acknowledge the pain and resolve it. almost like you're processing, and I see, there you are. It's a wave. It's kind of like body surfing, and it will always pass. If we could just do nothing, not try to manage, not try to hold on, nothing, just, this is really uncomfortable. And then just let it come through. It has no power over you.
Thank you for explaining that. I I read something very interesting after our workshop, that there are neural pathways in our brain which we are identifying that with trauma or something that happened in the past that created it. And then if we let that anger or anxiety, it can be any other emotion, it can be written, wired in our brain in certain way. And then all the healing that we are talking about is basically giving an alternate path in our mind, that going from point A to B, anger is not, releasing that anger is not the only path. There are other paths of healing.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that links with the ideas that you cover in your workshop so well, that we have an emotional response. Usually with anger, something unpleasant happens, we have an emotional response. And then if we detach ourselves from it, so there is, and then we put our thinking into that emotional response and resolve it slowly with mindfulness, and then that gives us this new path of healing. So I was reading quite a bit after our workshop, and this is what resonated deeply with me. So this is what is happening within the body, and this is exactly what we covered in the workshop. And I think that has, given me a life changing experience, that being anger and being able to think in this way, that okay, I am just rewiring myself, and this is where I am, I guess, truly healing. What I wanted you to do is, you can you explain for the listeners what are our inner wounds once we identify that okay, there is this trigger, but this is where it is hurting me. How do we melt those ice blocks? And that's a beautiful, beautiful concept that I heard from you, and I love it. And for our listeners, could you explain that, please?
Ice block, you mean? Or,
Yes,
well,
yes, the one
because
that you told us about in your workshop. That is such a heartwarming concept, and I feel that more and more people should be aware of it.
so I have to give credit to Dr. Peter Levine for the initial part, because he talks about every time something overwhelming happens to us, trauma or something that the brain cannot process in the moment, we kind of freeze. So if it happens often, we keep on freezing, and he calls that frostbites. And when I heard it, I thought, yeah. However, I felt more like I was totally frozen. So like it was just like you know, instead of his frostbites, I was just a big ice block. And then someone talked about Michelangelo and how could he possibly create such a masterpiece as David? And he had said, I paraphrase this now, oh, I didn't create David. God created David. I just removed what was not David. And I feel that if we, after trauma and childhood trauma and after all this abuse, walk around like big ice blocks, we can't really try to reach the inner tiny little mini me in there with an ice pick or a blowtorch, because we might touch in to that really vulnerable place that's us. But if we process and if we resolve, it's almost like melting this ice block. So eventually, the real me dares to come out. But it can't be forced, with ice picks or blowtorches or all this kind of digging. It has to be loved, cared for, held and felt safe so that this true person dares to come out. Because there is a reason why we've been hiding in this ice block, And I think that is, we can just put a big blanket on it and just love it and allow it to be what it is. And every time we give respect to the body, every time I see you. Ooh, I have a chest. Ooh, I feel the stomach. Every time we close our eyes and truly acknowledge the pain we have, I believe that part of that ice block melts. And eventually we dare to kind of come out and say, maybe it is safe to just be me. Does that make any sense?
It does. I mean, it is really, really beautiful. And this is what I wanted to tell you, and also to our listeners of this episode, that this concept that you just said, mini me, or a self under us, our exterior, that's a very similar concept I have heard from a few other guests, and it is such an important thing to understand. I believe that uh, we, even if we grow up, we have that inner child in us, a smaller version of us in there, and everything that grows around us, whether it is anger, whether it is anxiety, whether it is fear, whether it is, effect of, let's say, bullying, all of that resides with that inner child. And the more we recognize it, the more we understand it, then those frost bites, those ice blocks will gradually go away. By go away, meaning there will be an alternate path to look at it. And can you tell us about understanding and recognizing that inner version of us from your point of view? How do you approach that? How do you resolve some of those conflicts that can be rooted in those inner us?
So I think in pictures. I'm not good with any word that has more than 3 syllables. So I just explain myself mostly just in pictures. And what I have learned through having sessions myself is that the moment I'm ready to go off, like I say, in any kind, I might be anxious, or most of my anger came from fear, and I would just be reactive, like a stray dog that's just roaming around scared, and I'll bite before anybody bites me. And often that is just this tension and tightness in the body that I don't even think we know where it comes from until we've had a couple of sessions. Because often, even now, when I have a session, I can feel something in my body, and the practitioner says, okay, do nothing and let's just be. And once in a while, a memory will pop up. I felt like this when blah, 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 blah. And there comes a memory. And instead of going into the memory or analyze it or hold on to it, we could just let it go by, just like a cloud in the sky, and just, stick with the sensation and feel this discomfort. And then it will leave. It will always pass. And if that's not a detailed answer, to be honest, They say, memories, they changes, we change our memories. Yes, we can still remember the physical pain and all the stuff, but memories changes. Not to say that the abuser wasn't abusing, but memories are shifting. And I think there can be a danger in just sitting and analyzing it into detail. I have learned more that, oh, if I can just be right here, right now, in the moment, and allow this awful hairball coming up my throat. It can feel horrible, but it's just for a couple of minutes and then it goes away. So I suspect that that's not really the answer you wanted, but I don't know that I can detail it anymore, say, because it's so personal.
Yes, it of course it works very differently for different person, and I'm just talking about the concepts so that anyone who feels stuck in that zone, that they have anger and anxiety, and then they're not able to come out of it, like it becomes a repetitive pattern, then possibly there are areas to look at, there are possibly sensations to identify, and you know slowly allow that to melt so that there is uh, an way forward from the feeling of getting stuck. And I will give you a beautiful example that is very personal to me, but uh, it is something that stayed with me for a very long time, and I realized that was gone couple of weeks later after I attended your workshop. And it might be valid for other creatives as well, because a lot of people say that they write from pain, or they create from pain, they create from uh, an emotional suffering. Okay. And
Mhm.
it is what makes them creative, that their inner pain makes them creative. And I used to feel that for a very long time. I used to feel that I am feeling this pain, and then I have to write. So that means I'm recognizing the pain, and I'm using my outcome as a writer. That it's like I'm compensating for that, for the emotional pain. I'm compensating that with my creativity and my writing. And gradually, after um, your workshop, and then I did a little bit of reading, and I started meditating and thinking about those things and reflecting on some of my own ice blocks. And I felt I don't have to write from pain. It's just that I'm carrying that in my heart, that anguish. Okay, it is there. And because of that, I'm thinking that, okay, I have to write, and I'll balance these two. But there is no balancing these two. My writing or my creative outlet has nothing to do with that emotional pain. It is one of the biggest myths, or misconcept I have ever heard. And I think a lot of people who are creatives, who are poets, who are writers, kind of go through the same block, that they think that they are in pain, that's why they have to write. But it is so not true. It's because they haven't worked on those ice blocks, they haven't worked on those frost bites, and they think that it is what making them write, but it is so not true. And I felt very lighthearted. I mean, I have written 2 books, and you wouldn't believe this, the last one I was writing sometime in April in 2023, and I was in hospital, and I was in a lot of pain. Uh, and I was trying to think that, okay, if I write, the pain will go away. No, that those two are not related. I work on the pain, and I let it resolve, and I work on my expressions, and I write. Those two are not at all related. And I felt so lighthearted, so beautiful, so amazing, which is why I keep saying that Eva's workshop was a life altering event for me to understand what I was missing, and where I should channel myself. And now that I'm doing this podcast and I'm connecting with people, and I feel that that positivity somehow I'm slowly channeling out, and sharing that with anyone who is joining us. So yep, uh, definitely.
That's wonderful. I mean, it warms my heart because I mean, like I say on my website, my goal is that you shouldn't need my services. Hopefully, I can teach you something that you can integrate into who you are, and then you can be more of you. And I'm thinking about if I have a minute, because when you say this, I don't personally believe that we have to go back and relive the trauma to heal from it. I think it's very possible to kind of let the body tell the story and just go in and let this kind of discomfort in the body. And there may come up memories that we can just let go away. But I do not believe that we have to go in and dig in it. And for one, because one of these things is if let's say you're 2 years old and you got attacked by a dog, and now you grow up and you just have this, you're just scared of dogs. You don't even know why. Nobody really remembers. You were out in the grass, you lay there, and you're 2 years old, and here comes this dog and just bites you. Now, you won't remember this in therapy, in talk therapy. You won't, there is no verbal, there is nothing that can tell what really happened to you and why you're afraid of dogs. But the weird thing is that as you grow up and now you're 15, you can't go to the party because they got a big dog there and you just can't stand dogs. And now you may be 30 and you walk down the street and you see a dog and you just make a left. You just cross the street because there's a dog. Then you get a little sick of it and you go to a therapist and say, I don't know why. I have this boyfriend now and he has a dog and I can't be with him because he has a dog. So you go to someone, not you, but we go to someone and we start talking about it. And according to many body awareness therapists and so on, you will not get to the nitty gritty of why you're afraid of dogs because it happened so early in life that you don't even have a memory of it happening. But the body does. So if you would go to someone, well, like me or someone else, you wouldn't even try to find the trauma. You would just go to, well, you know what? I saw the dog down the street and and I crossed the street. So let's go to that. Let's see what that is. And there's some magic in that because if you don't do anything and you just close your eyes and you go to that, it's like pulling a thread out of a sweater. It will just like, and you will go right through what the body did when the dog bit you when you were 2 years old. I know how insanely easy this sounds like, and I know how but I tell you, most of my clients have been able, after 2, maybe 3 sessions, to resolve deep, deep body sensations that they've had for years. So I just wanted to try to explain that because it's difficult to explain what really happens. And as you're saying, what happened to you, Abhra? Like, what happened to you that suddenly you felt light? What is that?
For me, I felt like I was carrying an invisible weight on my
Huh?
shoulders. And gradually, I felt that was not there anymore. I felt so light. I felt so beautiful. And I felt that was showing that uh, got expressed through my work, my family, my interactions, my creativity, all of that reflected in it. So it's like I was weighing something, I was carrying something on my shoulder which I didn't need to.
Yes. And the reason why I'm asking is you have never, no, not with me or in the workshop, you didn't have to go back and know and analyze what had happened to you in the past that made you walk around with that weight on your shoulders. All that stuff haven't even been addressed. And you still felt the relief and it still shifted you.
Yes.
And I think that's the point I'm trying to make to people, that you don't always have to find what was it that created that weight. The point is to get rid of the weight. Does this make any sense?
It definitely does. And I think we create that weight, or calling it weight, it might be very different to another person. I'm just calling it weight because I can, because we are talking about mind body connections and physicality of it. And I'll give one example which would I guess someone can relate to it. As for whatever reasons, I was afraid of going on long drives. Okay, like I used to think that, oh, I'll not be able to do it, and allow me to take one more step back. When I was growing up, for whatever reasons, my father was very afraid of driving. I have never seen him drive. Okay, and he said, you cannot drive. If you drive, you will meet with an accident or whatever. He had some kind of fear and phobia, and he constantly put that in me and my younger brother, that you cannot drive. Okay. And somehow when I started driving, I had that at the back of my mind that I'll probably not be able to. Okay. And I always used to, like, try to make sure that it is, whenever I'm driving, it's not more than 1.5 hour distance. Okay. If that makes sense. I had that fear within me. Okay. And then gradually, when I felt that uh, emotional lightness, after that, the first thing I did was I went on a drive for 5-6 hours.
Oh.
I was just perfectly fine. I mean, there was nothing. So you see
How
how
do you even feel right now when you're telling me this story?
I know I'm feeling really good, really,
Yeah.
nice about it. And we talked about like how the workshop has affected, and I couldn't do justice to that just recording myself. So I thought that if you and I talk, maybe a lot more insights will come up in course of that discussion. So yes, so the first thing I did after the um the workshop is that, yeah, I feel so lighthearted. Let's put this to test. Let's go on a long drive for all day. And I drove all day and I had no difficulties at all. And then I realized that all that fear, emotional baggage is not there anymore.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. That is wonderful. That is so wonderful. And I mean, and also that you got to that place without having to analyze yourself to death, or you had to go and dig in all the old stuff. You could just let it go.
Exactly.
What a freedom.
It is a much awaited freedom, because I grew up with the understanding that anger has to do something with, physicality, like our body structure or something. And okay, let me bring this up as well, now that we are discussing this. It would probably help someone listening into the conversation. Okay, I was born as a like forceps baby. Okay, what that means is that because of my structure, the doctors had to put a forceps here when I was born, and then there is a little bit of dip here in my head. Okay, even now I can feel it. And I was told as a child that I remember I used to get very angry from time to time, and I was told that it has something to do with that physicality, that pressure in my head. And I felt that I'm never going to get past it. It's not going to, be nice and round ever. So I felt that my anger is my companion. It is going to stay with me forever, whatever happens, because my physicality, my body will not change. Right? So that is what I was told, and I started believing in it. But then I attended your workshop, then I did a little bit of research on the neural pathways, which I shared. I read a beautiful book on meditation, and it was, I don't remember the name of the book, but it is about the Buddhist philosophy. And then I read that book and gradually started feeling that emotional weight I was carrying is not there anymore. And I was such a happier and liberated version of myself. And I felt that now I can, you know, make the impossible possible. Like, if I want to do this, if I set my mind that I want to do this, I can do that so well. It's very liberating.
And I think it's so good that you brought up this, because this was something you were told. So
Yes.
someone has connected this experience with a belief system. And I think that's the danger when we grow up. Gabor Mate talks a lot about this, how we grow up in the first 5-6 years of our life, we get like imprinted with belief systems and feelings and all that. So like we have no protection. We have no protection against our parents or anybody. So we grow up and like something like that. Well, dad is afraid of driving. And then he gives you that belief that it seems to be dangerous to drive. And now suddenly you believe it. That, I think, is a big, we don't have to be physically abused to have, inhibit, and low self-esteem or anything like that. It can just be a belief system that keeps us down, And how wonderful that what a great story.
It is a beautiful story. I mean, in my podcast, I generally interview the guests, but I know you so well. I felt like I should share that story as well.
Absolutely. It was so good to hear. And so that's a drastic, I've had clients who have had tics, for instance, and it could be something just, something like this. And that's what they do. And that's it. And they gone to doctors, they tried all kinds of stuff. And we focused on that. Like just there. What are you noticing in your whole body right there? It was magical. It was this boy, I was working at a recovery center for young boys. 10 minutes. I didn't even know it was going to work. 10 minutes. And the guy started to notice a body sensation right before he did this. 10 minutes. It was gone. I was just, oh my goodness. It wasn't even what I thought I was doing. It was just really how magical it can be when we give the body some attention. And sometimes tics are just like rubber bands, and you tight, and then it snaps. And then it starts tightening up again. So now a couple of clients have had just movements that kind of, and they often come from old childhood. Maybe you fell out of a tree or you did something where the body, and then you get stuck in some kind of protection cycle. So your body just goes, and you just don't seem to be able to stop it. And you can, if you could just be with it, and it will resolve. It is mad, in my opinion. It is quite magical. And to hear your story, it just shows the magic.
And I truly believe that a lot of my thought process has completely changed, and I have, if anything, has made me lighter, a better version of myself, and more spirited. So, in context of the podcast, there are two things that I had in mind and which I really wanted to cover in this episode. That this is something, again, going back to your workshop that you shared, that when we release anger, when we have that outburst or have any negative reaction, that gives us an emotional cocktail, a mix of things that we get addicted to. And if we can interrupt that with mindfulness, then we stop that cycle, stop that repetitive behavior. Do you want to talk about it? And I just wanted you to explain that for listeners. It is a wonderful concept, and I will tell you a little bit again of my backstory on that. Okay.
Uh-huh. Well, so I call it the cocktail because I was struggling with alcohol years ago. So it was my cocktail, and it is. I heard it also from David Hawkins talked about the juice, and it is that the brain is the best pharmacy in the world, and the brain is creating a chemical cocktail. We can call it anger, we can call it despair, we can call it whatever. But if we drink enough, pay enough attention, if we allow that cocktail enough to kind of take us over, we can get addicted to it. It's often like, I don't like it, but I know it. And it's easier to do that than to do something new that I don't know, because the brain needs to predict, right? The brain's job is to keep us alive. So it needs to predict what happens next. So even if I don't like what happens next, I am so overwhelmingly irritated and discontent right now. So I'll take that cocktail. Because I know that's going to fix me right now, even though I may not like it, but I know it. So that cocktail can be it can be depression. It can be, look, for me, it's a kind of a shame. And when I feel shame and I feel victimized, it's kind of comfortable because I don't have to do anything. I'm like, poor me. I was stuck there for a long time. And especially now after my husband died, I was like shocked, but then I started to catch myself. Oh, I could cuddle up on the couch and just feel sorry for myself, and that can become an addiction because you don't have to do anything. You could just sit there, so whatever you get used to as like a comfort, a weird, there is a saying that we say in the 12 steps, we get a painful pleasure out of self-loathing. There is some kind of weird, just to sit there and in a pity party, just to be there. And it's, and we're very sensitive when we're in that place. So if anybody would dare to say that it's self-inflicted, that's just an insult to the whole system. But there is, and I think Dr. Huberman really talks about it, and David Hawkins, his book, Recovery and Healing, talks about the juice we get. And one question, if you have friends and so on, that they're stuck in this, whatever it is they're stuck in, we can always ask, and they're going to get offended, but you can always ask, what are you getting out of this? That's what Dr. Hawkins always, the juice. What is this cocktail? What do you get out of that? Oh, I don't get anything. It's just, I'm so sorry. No, there is something there, that you're still getting something out of it. And I was told you can't think yourself into a good action. You have to act yourself into good thinking. So when you're stuck on the couch and you're having your cocktail, well, if it's misery, anger, whatever it is, self-loathing, you have to get off the couch and take a walk, because it's not going to change just because you try to think your way out of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, it definitely does. I will try to share something very uh, related to this is, and this again, it relates back to your workshop, is that we did this exercise on boundary management.
Yes.
Yes. And often, you know, we do not have, I shouldn't say we, for me personally, I feel that one of the reasons of my anger was not having proper boundary management. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I'll go back to the question I asked you, was that emotional cocktail. Okay. So I have something that triggered some upsetting emotions with me. Previously, I would always react. Okay. After the workshop I attended, I realized that I can segregate react and response. So I can give someone a response. Okay. I don't have to react. In that reaction, I can, whatever I was getting a hang of the cocktail, instead of that, I will work on what was it that was troubling me? What was that ick? What was that frostbite? What did it trigger? Then I realized, oh, okay, so there is something else that I have to melt. Okay, I have melted this, but there are not one ice block. There can be other frostbites. I said, oh, so this is what that triggered. Okay, sorry. Let's go and work on that. Let's melt that. And why the separating the response and reaction is very important is the moment you separate them out, you're already starting to form your alternate neural pathway. So you are gradually healing. Okay. And at the same time, you're reflecting on, okay, so there is this frostbite, then that you can melt. So I was always like a writer, and I did a lot of sort of cultural activities and things like that. And for whatever reason, I used to get a lot of hate from people. Okay. Not because I did something bad or I wrote something bad or I wrote something like that, but I was trying to organize something. And whenever that someone couldn't align to my vision or something, I used to get a lot of hate. Okay. And I used to take that upon myself. So that's the thing that, okay, so this is what I'm getting a hate comment, I'm just getting a hate question, or somebody wrote something negatively on Facebook. And it used to affect me. And now that I know, okay, and I used to react that, you said this and I'll retaliate and things like that. And I then realized that, okay, if I can segregate these two out, reaction and response, then I don't feel any pain about it. So if somebody must have, even after the workshop, I've got one or two hate comments here and there. Like one person really said something offensive about the podcast, okay, saying really, really bad things. Okay. And I said, well, thank you. I said that, well, it is what you think. Well, what can I do about it? And, yeah, if you don't like the podcast, don't listen. Just don't skip that. And just feel free to miss it. And you don't, and I don't have to justify, or I don't have to hold ground, or I don't have to prove anything. So that separation of reaction and response really, really worked in making me feel lighter and lighter and lighter.
That's wonderful. Plus, when we don't react, we don't have to regret anything either. We don't have to apologize because we didn't react. I think that's when we get that nanosecond. And that's why I teach this stop, drop, check, right? If you start feeling the heat or something, you can stop. And you look around and say, do I feel safe? Is something going on? And then I can drop. I can just let go of my breath. And then I can check. What am I noticing in my body? And that time it takes, then you have enough time to respond rather than react. And you can then when we did the boundary exercise, just this whole idea of, how does it feel to push someone physically out of your space? And when we do this with families and, maybe a young son get to push dad out of his space. They get scared, they get it, and dad doesn't like it. But when we do a couple of times, they start understanding, no, this is not physical, it's emotional, it's somatic. Just the feeling of setting a boundary and say, this is not okay with me, without having to get angry.
Exactly. And in the, and I'm telling you this should be, you could teach this to people working in corporate side of things. It happens more often than not. Boundary management.
I'd love to.
I mean, next time you are here in Melbourne, if you come back, I would request you to do a session purely on the boundary management side, because what happens is a lot of people misuse that. So I'll tell you both side of things. Like, let's say I have that inner wound. So in a way, I feel like, okay, I should do this to get accepted. Okay. So I'm not maintaining proper boundary. But as a result, I am getting offended or I'm getting hurt. So I remember I about 7 years ago, I joined a new work position. Okay. And it the organization culture was very different from what I was used to. Okay. So a few people in this new workplace were trying to be manipulative, and every people who are manipulators in the workplace, they have different strategies of finding where someone is vulnerable and then exploiting that. What I didn't know about is boundary management. I could have stopped a lot of things coming my way a long time ago, and I didn't. So it kind of affected me, and it stayed with me for, as I said, like last 7 years. And now that I understand the boundary management thing a lot better, and I can link that to the, again, emotional weight. So now I feel that, okay, this is how I can boundary manage. So I can keep all these people outside that boundary instead of having to be angry at them. Okay.
Yes. Yes, because the anger drains your energy. And when you put boundaries, you don't lose the energy,
So something happened last week. Somebody said, this is not right. You have to do this. Yeah, I will, something disrespectful. And I said that, a couple of months ago, I would have reacted and fought that. And I said, that's not how we operate. And can I come back to you? And I didn't go back to him.
Congratulations. I mean, isn't that a fabulous success, though, if you think about it?
Yeah.
Moments like that, when I'm in a situation where I could have bit their head off, or I could have, but I didn't. And it comes that way. For me, it's like I can get really proud of myself that I didn't react, because sometimes I still get surprised or something, and I I just do defense maneuvers.
Yes.
And when I don't, it's lovely.
So that is how that's a lot of these areas that has kind of changed me for better and understand, reflect.
Wow.
And I'm sure anyone listening to the conversation, I'm sure this is helpful. The
Well, one
yeah.
thing,
Yes.
since you said about your corporation, before I forget it, if you or anybody else can get me enough opportunities to teach the workshop, I would come over just for that. Because I love doing the workshop. And I mean, look how it affected you. I've got other feedbacks. I love doing it. And the thing is, I would do it for free if I didn't have my own bills, just because it's so wonderful to hear some feedback like yours, for instance. So I'm on the next flight the moment somebody wants me over there. Anyway, so that was my
And
little plug-in.
you wouldn't believe how deeply these things are rooted in the corporate culture, this deep sense of bullying, and it's everything, how that affects people because they are not aware of, okay, this is how I should boundary manage and I should not let that affect me. I will share one more story here. Okay.
Yes.
And this episode is becoming about me. I wanted to.
No, but this is great because you know why? Because if one workshop, and I remember it when we were talking and everything, if a workshop can help you this much to help you feel as free and light as you feel, isn't that the best? I mean, that's just amazing.
That is truly, truly amazing. And this one, it happened to me, I think, it's even before I got married, so I think 17, 18 years ago. So a really, really long time ago. I used to work under someone who used to manipulate us, doing a lot of extra work by this bullying. Okay. So he'll tell me that, oh, you are an idiot. You cannot do this, right? And then I'll say, oh, okay, so my boss says this, I'll have to work harder. I have to compensate for that thing to get accepted, to feel better. But that messes up with mine, that negative reinforcement. Because I'm not putting up this boundary, I am taking a lot of bullshit in, and that is getting added to my emotional weight. I don't have to. I'm just there doing my work, and then I'm there, I'm just done my stuff, and that's it, that ends. Which is why I'm saying that in corporate culture there is a big avenue for anyone to understand that, okay, this is where boundaries lie and this is where self-awareness starts, and that can help you become a better version of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen, not once, I've seen that like throughout my 20 years of career in software engineering, that this is how people manipulate others, and this is what they make people vulnerable, and then get things done in a way they want to, right? So which is why very important for anyone to learn it. So that's why I'm saying that one workshop, it has flipped the world completely around for me.
Crazy. Because after I came back to Sweden, I put that workshop, I made like an online course, and my daughter helped me. So we went through the whole presentation and we showed the exercises and everything as an online course, just to spread it, because I'm not good at marketing. So I never get out there to market myself. So I even have it on my website online. But
wonderful.
Any moment, oh, I tell you, anytime you want me, I'll be right there.
Wonderful. And I told my close friends that this workshop that I attended, and it has worked for me better than any therapy or any, advice
Oh,
I've ever received. Okay, so I think we are nearing towards the end of our discussion. And in your workshop, you shared something beautiful about mindfulness. And for our listeners today, can you share your thoughts on mindfulness and how can one practice that in their day-to-day life?
so my take on mindfulness, it's well, for me, I just sit still. If I can wake up and just sit still, and you can start with 5 minutes. A lot of people have a very hard time to just sit still and do nothing. But to sit and just slowly notice your body. And I think this is what we went through in the workshop to just recognize, like the sand in the hourglass, to slowly bring your attention inward and just recognize that you can actually be mindful and connected to yourself simultaneously throughout the day. But if you do the practice, like maybe breakfast, lunch, dinner, 5 minutes, that you just sit and notice how much is going through your brain. And I was told, you're never responsible for the first thought. It just landed, it just planted there. You're not responsible for the first thought, but you're responsible for the dwelling on it. So with mindfulness, you can sit and you can notice how crazy your brain can be. And I have learned that the brain is just a muscle, and either you control your brain or the brain will control you. Your mind is everything. We have all the serotonin in our bellies, and we have so our mind is like being a sponge and just taking everything like a body print, and then just sit. What happens with me right now? Is this the one you meant when you said I should explain it?
That we are so caught up into our day to day that we don't give that mindful minute to ourselves. We are like, one of my guests said something very interesting, that we are always on autopilot. We're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing that. But where is the moment where I isolate myself from the environment and reflect? And it's something my mom used to tell me when I was a boy, that always think that your mind is a drop of water on a lotus leaf. I'm not sure if you've seen lotus leaves, like they have a waxy kind of
Uh-huh.
top. That's why the water never stays still, it just goes random back and forth. So that is your mind, always restless. But you take that mindful minute, you can possibly make that come to a still, even if it is for a minute, even if it's for 2 minutes, whatever time we can allow.
And there is a practice, because like the train of thought, if you're sitting and you start catching yourself, let's say you're angry at someone and you're just fuming, if you can get a gap between your thought and you, it's like you have a train of thought and it's going over the cliff. You're just ready to get off the train. I used to tell my clients, just get off the train. Just get off the train and watch your thought just come by. And you can literally sit and say, I have a thought that says blah, 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 blah. However, that's just a thought. It's not me. It's a thought. So if you can sit just for 1 minute, 2 minutes, and just feel the seat, feel your feet on the ground, and just, and then suddenly you're connecting with yourself again.
Exactly.
And I don't know if that answer was enough for you. I'm thinking, since I think in pictures, I may have a different explanation than what you expected.
No, what I was trying to say is that we are always busy, but we do not take that mindful minute into consideration in the day. And that, so for example, now I feel a lot of less emotional weight. Okay, that's good. But keeping the mind healthy, keeping that 1 minute to our mind is also very, very important. That's an ongoing thing that I protect and I make it as healthy as I can. So,
And during this technical, when everybody is techie, you can have a reminder on your watch. Just a little pling. Oh, yeah. Just like that. You can get into a habit. Oh, that's right. Oh, and take 60 seconds. And you get into a practice of that, you will be more and more present to your children, to your wife, to co-workers. You will be more here. Like right now. We're here.
exactly. No, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. And thank you once again, Eva. That I had a lot of things in mind, and then we uncovered a few things on the way that came up in the discussion. I would have never been able to, remember all of this and organize. You asked me to do a review of your workshop, but I hope that this is a good reference, and if you want to share this with anyone who you think might be benefited by it, so we have wonderful references. So from the anger side of things, from the inner child concepts, the frost bites, the healing, boundary management, meditation, we talked about a lot of things. And I think that this is not applicable to anger and anxiety alone. It has a bigger implication in fear, in sadness, and in depression, um, in relationships, in grief, whatever we are feeling. These concepts that we talked about, they hold good in all those areas. So,
Yeah.
which is why I wanted to do this as a fresh new episode. And those who I will of course put the old episode in description. And then now, as someone listens to this episode, they can watch and they can be part of the emotional journey that I have shared with you, and been benefited by your workshop. So thank you once
Well, I
again.
just so appreciate your time. I love talking with you, and I just appreciate being here. So,
Thank you.
been great.